Hello, good morning. I hope that you're all well and that you've had a good week. Didn't that week go quickly? I am amazed how far into February we are. It seems like yesterday it was January. I only realised what the date was and how far we were into February when the beginning of last week I had an email from a lady who stitches our samplers, and she said, I can't wait to see what sampler you release on your birthday. And that's when I thought, oh my God, look at the date. Do you know what? A week Wednesday, I travelled to London to fly over to Nashville. It only seems like yesterday I flew back from Arizona. Anyway, in this Flosstube, I'm going to show you my birthday sampler, which has released today to coincide with this Flosstube. But before I do that, I want to talk about something else. I think it was either Tuesday or Wednesday, I released a presentation on band samplers from Mrs. Parkman's Academy of Needlework, and that is available on my YouTube channel. Many people have already watched it, and thank you for all the kind comments that you left on that video and from the emails and messages I received about the video. The presentation I recorded for that video was a presentation that I first did in, I think it was 2019, 5 years ago. It's crazy. Anyway, this presentation on band samplers runs you through the history of band samplers very quickly. It only scratches the surface of all there is to discover about band samplers. Band samplers are so special. They really are, and they come with such fascinating history. Now, when you watch the video and the presentation, if your interest is, if you think, gosh, this is something I really want to find out more about, there are some wonderful books on band samplers, or that contains good information about band samplers. I thought I would pull my favourite three. Of the three, two are very difficult to get hold of and are very expensive, but one of the books is readily available. And I must admit, it's become one of my favourite books in my needlework library. So let's talk about the first book that came into my life that predominantly focuses on band samplers, and that is the Feller Book 1. Now this book is like hen's teeth to get hold of, and it's very expensive. It's beautiful. It's a glorious book that celebrates the needlework collection of the Fellers, and this book 1 predominantly focuses on band samplers and very early needlework. A book that is delightful but very expensive and very difficult to get hold of. The next book that came into my life on band samplers was one on the Goodhart samplers. Now the Goodhart samplers are at Montacute House in England. That's a National Trust property, and there is a book that celebrates the collection. It's predominantly on band samplers because most of the samplers in the collection are band samplers. A lovely book worth having on the shelf in your library, but again, it's expensive to buy. But a book that is readily available and affordable, this book is not expensive at all, is I Write the Needle's Praise, A Century of Sampler Making, 1630 to 1730, and it was written by Rebecca Scott of Whitney Antiques. This is a fabulous book for anybody who is interested in band samplers. The exhibition that this book came from was held in 2022, and I was very lucky to be able to see that exhibition, and it was amazing. Now, when I went to that exhibition, when I was walking through and I got into the back room, my eyes immediately went across the room to a particular sampler. And this book will fall open naturally on page 61, because it's a page that I have drooled over and studied so many times. This was the sampler that made me go all peculiar. I was ready to mortgage the house to acquire this sampler. But unfortunately, it wasn't for sale. It was in the exhibition purely to be displayed, not sold. It was so beautiful. And I think for me, as a needle worker, that's what drew me to the sampler. When I was studying it, I could feel my fingers stitching it. It was a sampler that I ideally would have loved to have acquired, to have reproduced so that I could have stitched it. And of course, if I did that, I would have shared it with you. Beautiful, beautiful sampler. Now, there are some samplers in this book which you can stitch. There's two of my samplers featured in this book. The first one is Jane Vaughan. That sampler is available to be purchased from Hands Across the Sea Samplers so that you can stitch it. And then the next sampler is Bethia, Batha, whichever way you pronounce it. I pronounce it Bethia. She will always be known as Bethia to me, and it's that sampler. And it's this sampler that I talk about in depth in the presentation I released earlier this week. If you want to stitch Bethia, whether you want to stitch her reversibly or non-reversibly, that is up to you. That's your choice. I have actually covered up the back of my reversible stitching and hung her so that she's just visible from the front. There is an online workshop on the Hands Across the Sea Samplers site if you want to stitch this sampler reversibly. Now, there's two other samplers in this book that aren't mine and I have not reproduced, but we have reproduced samplers that are similar. The first one is an anonymous sampler. Here it is. And we have reproduced a sampler by the name of Anne Borrett. An Anne Borrett sampler is quite a short one. It's an entire sampler. It's not a cut sampler, it's entire, but it features these beautiful bands here. So that is available for you to stitch. And then the other sampler that's very reminiscent of a sampler that we have reproduced is AI in the book, and we have reproduced MH. So there we are. This is a book that's well worth adding to your needlework library and is readily available and easily affordable. I'm not sure if it's something like £40. I don't think it's more than that. This book is available from Whitney Antiques, and I do know that there are several needlework stores that carry this book. When I was in Arizona, Jean had these books in stock. I believe Traditional Stitches stock the book, and so do Hobby House Needleworks, but I'm sure there's many, many others that do. Definitely worth it. Now, I very rarely show band samplers in my private collection. I'm always very concerned about images being used to maybe reproduce a sampler that's mine, somebody else doing that. So I am very careful because band samplers are so valuable. They're such a big investment. But I thought to celebrate the presentation on band samplers that I would show you a sampler in my private collection. And it's this one. There is no name on the sampler, and unfortunately that happens so often with band samplers. I love the white work section on this one, and in my video we do talk about the white work sections in band samplers and the purpose behind them. This light today. This sampler has not got a reflective glass in front of it. I must actually get that changed. And here we have two figures. Lovely, beautiful needlework in this. You've got some needle lace on the cuffs. You've got some gold work. I love the couching that forms the decoration on this gown, and the work. When you study this sampler close up, the workmanship in it is very, very beautiful. I can tell from looking at the screen, the colours are not capturing at all well. The colours on this sampler are delightful. Beautiful sampler, and there's a lot to admire in this sampler in the needlework. Very, very pretty. Very, very pretty indeed. And if you have watched my presentation, you will know all about the history of the pineapple. Anyway, I'm just going to pop that away. Before I talk about our new release, I'm just going to mention this week Hobby House Needleworks released their spring range of cases, and oh my god, a beautiful fresh lime green and the most gorgeous shade of lavender. I tell you what, I went whoosh and I bought them, and they are on their way to me. I hope that I might have them to show you in my next Flosstube. We shall see, but you can go along to their website and have a look. There looks to be a round travel case. Watch this space. Okay, let's talk about our new release, which sort of links to Mrs. Parkman's Academy of Needlework. The next sampler I'm releasing is really a learning sampler. It's introducing a different skill to just cross stitch, and here is the sampler. It was stitched by M. Nenquin. Isn't that beautiful? Glorious, glorious sampler. So it is stitched entirely in cross stitch over 2, with the exception of the darning panels. Now, darning panels are very, very easy to stitch. These panels, you only use 1 stitch, and it is the stitch that every needleworker begins with when they first pick up a needle, whether they're stitching or sewing. It is the simple running stitch. You go up through the fabric, over, down, along, up, over, down, along, up, over, down. That's all you're going to be doing when you are making these darning panels. Where the pattern arises is from the number of threads that you go up and over and down and under, whatever you want to, however you want to explain it. Those are the 4 panels. They are very, very easy to stitch. I'm going to show you the chart. Here's the booklet, M. Nenquin. This is a Belgian sampler, and in the booklet, to help you, we show you some really good close-up photographs of the darning panels. As you can see, that it's all made up of a running stitch, and the running stitch goes over varying lengths to create the pattern. And then the chart for the darning patterns is very clear. So for example, if we start with the first one, you would bring your needle up, you would take it over 6 threads, go down, take your needle 2 threads across the back, bring it up to the front, go over 2 threads, go back down, take your needle 2 threads across on the reverse, bring it back up, take it over 6 threads and repeat. That's all you need to do. It's that simple, but it's not suitable for Ada. The reason that this pattern is not suitable for Ada is that it's splitting the stitch, because over a square you haven't just got 1 stitch, you've got that middle stitch which will fall in your square on your Ada. So this is not suitable for Ada, but it may be one that will tempt you to try other fabric, maybe an even weave. There she is, so pretty, this sampler. The sampler is available on our website now as a booklet or as a PDF, and it is available in Needlework stores. Because I was caught out on the what date it was in February, I'm afraid that my boxes shipping out to our distributors were a little bit delayed going out, but our distributors will receive those booklets this week, and so will needlework stores that have ordered directly from me. This colourful sampler only uses 6 colours. The use of colour is really clever in this sampler. You would think, looking at it, there was lots of colour, but there are only 6. I love how she's shaded her numbering. That's so pretty. Beautiful little delicate panels, rows. God, I'm getting all my words mixed up today. That is so pretty. And one that's really very, very doable. These darning panels, they work up so quickly, so much quicker than if you were cross stitching. Now, the size of the sampler is 209 stitches by 201 stitches. So I stitched mine on 56 count, which is 7.46 inches by 7.18. But the little girl, she stitched her sampler on a very low count of linen. You can see the difference in size. There is no reason for you to stitch anything on a set count of linen. You stitch your sampler on the fabric that suits your eye, or if you want a specific size sampler that suits the size that you want. Sometimes you have a space in your house where you want to hang a sampler, and that sampler needs to be a certain size. It's your sampler, you stitch it on whatever fabric you like. So let me just show you the original. Here we go. There she is. And the little girl just edged it with some binding. I like to frame mine. Okay, so what else have I got to tell you about this? Fabric wise, I would use a nice rich cream. That's a lovely match with that sampler. A slightly dirty cream, possibly just to give it a little bit of age. Love this so much. Okay, now this one is the first in a series of samplers that use weaving and darning. I chose N Nenquin because I felt this was probably the easiest one for people to do. You know, those panels are just so easy to stitch, and the rest of the sampler being just cross stitch over too. So this is the first in a series of weaving and darning samplers that will release in the years ahead. I hope you enjoy her. Now let's have a look at some other darning and weaving samplers that we have. This is one that's going to release in the not too distant future. That's the original, and this is the reproduction. And this was stitched for me by the Contented Stitcher. Very, very pretty. So there we are. Now this sampler goes a step further, and you're using 2 threads to darn, one on the horizontal and one on the vertical. So that just requires that little bit more skill. And with this sampler, although you've got the, let me go back up, you've got the weaving, you've got the darning, the weaving is actually done on the surface. I'll just show you the back of the original so that you can understand what I'm talking about. See, that's the darning and that's the weaving. So the darning goes through the fabric, the weaving does not. And there are all reasons why these stitches were used. And I will talk about that as we release the various different samplers. So Darning is the repairing of fabric by inserting new threads into a piece which has been rubbed thin or worn into a hole. It imitates the original texture and is almost invisible, and the manner of weaving the threads makes it strong. Running stitch which they call a running darn, is the easiest one. It's the beginner's one to do, and that was another reason why I chose that. And one of the reasons why the stitches vary is that because the stitches aren't the same length, it distributes the tension on the fabric. We will go into that in depth with future releases. In the book, I do give you a little bit of background, and so I'm going to read it to you. While samplers were stitched by girls to demonstrate their stitching skills, cross-stitch, they could include sewing skills such as structural sewing, mending and patchwork. In centuries past, clothing and household linen were not thrown away if damaged, as they were valued possessions. Women spent many hours mending, darning and patching. Extending the life of garments and linens was not only a necessity, but a valuable skill. Young girls learned to darn, patch and mend either from their mothers or as part of their education. Mending is when a tear is repaired using a line of stitching. Patching is when a piece of cloth is used to repair a hole in the ground material by covering it. Darning is characterised by the use of thread to replicate the structure of the fabric, and although it was meant to be invisible, sometimes different coloured threads were used to embellish the fabric. The darning blocks found in samplers with weave structures were designed to show that the girl could repair a variety of different weaves. Who of us today darns socks? We just don't, do we? Or the average person doesn't, unless they were a very special pair of socks. I do some darning, and that's my husband when he puts a hole in one of his jumpers, when he plays golf, when he goes in the bushes, when his ball's gone in the rough. He often comes to him and says, "Can you mend this?" And sometimes, you know, they are major repair jobs, and other times they're just little holes which are easy. But it's been very interesting researching the history of darning and weaving. It's actually enabled me to brush up, or not brush up, but to actually acquire new skills for repairing raised clothes. Anyway, we've looked at this one. Let me show you some more. I love this one. This is a particular favourite of mine, maybe because it's red. Let's have a look at this. There we go. Aren't those pretty? Little pretty patterns. Just all of this is so easy to stitch. This is a nice one. We've got some sort of like tartan type weaves there, and it goes through the back. This is all little tiny stitches. The stitches are all running stitch over one thread. This one will be a little bit further on. Isn't that lovely? This is nice as well. So with this one, it's very much like the blue sample I showed you. You have got darning and weaving. And then this one is an advanced project because, oh, were you trying to come through, Bertie? Come on, baby boy. Come on, you can come through. Yes, you can. This one is where the child has cut out fabric to replicate an actual mend of reweaving the threads, and this is where she stopped, and those are her threads left hanging from the piece. These are all ones where she's cut out holes and demonstrated different weaves to fill them in. You know, clothes were valuable and they just didn't get thrown away. You know, any sort of fabric items such as sheets and curtains, anything, they had to be repaired because they were valuable. Okay, what was it? There was one thing I wanted to talk about relating to this, and it's gone out of my head, Bertie. So Mummy's getting very forgetful, isn't she? I can't think what it was, I'm sorry. I remembered what it was that I wanted to talk about. And I think it's going to be easier if I show you in the close-up photographs. Okay, this was the very last thing I stitched on the sampler. And as I got to the end, look, I had a nasty slub here and here, and it sort of made my weaving pattern gape. What I would suggest to you is when you come to stitch this sampler, that you check your fabric and work out where these panels are going to go and check that there are no slubs. That slub up here would not have been noticeable because it was in this one. It sticks out like a sore thumb. That was a bit of bad luck, but I should have thought of that beforehand, but there we are. Okay, Bertie, what do you want? You want to go for a walk, don't you? I know you do. We will. I want to say thank you to the person that sent this to me. I had a package arrive this week, and when I opened it, it was just amazing. People are so kind and generous with what they send me, and I do love having all these little surprises. I can't open this. If I can now. You're a funny boy. So here we are. It's this delightful little angel. There was no name in the package, so I can't thank the person who sent it to me. So if you're watching, thank you so much. This brought so much joy to me and a smile, and I will have this finished and it will go on my Christmas tree that has gifts and, you know, handmade items on there. Thank you so much. Very, very kind of you. I just wish I knew who you were. Something I wanted to mention, tea towels. I was asked quite a while ago now to show a tea towel that had been laundered. And I've been meaning to, I've kept on forgetting to. But yesterday I did some ironing and I thought, right, I'm keeping this tea towel to show you. This is a tea towel that has been washed many times. It was ironed yesterday, and this is what a used tea towel looks like. And this tea towel has been used for drying dishes. It's one of my favourite. We've done 3 different series of tea towels. This was the last series, which was Red House Series 2, and it is my favourite, the Series 2. I kept that to the last. There are 3 different tea towels that come with red houses on. A red house is sort of like, it sort of sums up a schoolgirl sampler to me. So this is Elizabeth Harding, and this tea towel has been washed countless times. This tea towel has probably been in use for several months and, you know, laundered every few days. I tend to change my tea towels several times a day because of the amount of times that we wash our hands. I tend to grab a tea towel, and when you've got an Aga, you use tea towels for all sorts of things, opening the Aga door, getting things out, all sorts of things. So that is a well-used tea towel. But not everybody's using their tea towels as tea towels. A lot of people are using their tea towels to make them into project bags. And this week gone, I saw a photograph of a tea towel that had been turned into a project bag. And I thought, oh, this is just so beautiful. And the person who made the project bag for a customer was Stacey, and Stacey's, hold on, I've got this here now. Stacey has an Etsy store, and it's the Missing Needle. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you on this video the email address, which is the contact information for Stacey of the Missing Needle, and her Etsy shop address. Her work is beautiful. I'm always partial to project bags that have a clear front, because you can see exactly what's in that project bag before you pick it up and go somewhere, open it up and realise it's the wrong thing that you've picked up. Okay, anything else to mention? No, I think that's about it for today. Miss Nenquin, I believe she's called Marie Nenquin, is available now on the Hands Across the Sea Samplers website. It's a beautiful sampler, and it's a great one for you to learn a new skill, add a new element to your sampler wall. You will be amazed how easy these are and how quickly they stitch up. It's only 6 colours, won't cost a lot of money to kit up, so enjoy it. Okay, right, I'm going to go and walk that little boy. He's desperate for his walk. Thankfully, it's not raining today. Yesterday, the rain was unbelievable. I went out walking the dogs, and I went out in my big coat that covers me, you know, from head to foot. And as I was walking, I was getting, my coat was getting heavier and heavier. When I got home and I took my coat off, I dropped it on the floor just because I just needed to get out of it. And then when I went to pick it back up, I really struggled. No wonder I was exhausted walking yesterday. This morning, our cove is flooded. We had the fire engines and the police there this morning diverting traffic. But today there is no rain, so I'm going to go out and walk those boys. Stay well, stay safe, and if God is kind, I'll be back next weekend 1 year older. Bye-bye.